real cases before a real judge.
And now, enter the courtroom of Judge Mathis.
Plaintiff Diane Lunn has been a teacher in Gary, Indiana for 15 years. Diane says she does not promote violence, so she's devastated that she and her co-worker, the defendant, got into a physical altercation at their school. Diane claims the defendant broke her finger, so she's suing. Defendant Sharon Hamblin is a guidance counselor, and she's been with the Gary School District for 20 years. Sharon says she has never been in trouble with the law, and she's appalled to be in court over a physical fight with Diane. Sharon insists Diane started the fight, so she's countersuing.
Start with you.
First and foremost, Your Honor, I work as a teacher in Gary, Indiana. I have been an educator for over 15 years. I do not advocate violence. Knowing that Gary, Indiana has received so much negative publicity, the last thing I want to do as a role model is to exhibit that. I received a broken finger as a result of the altercation.
Altercation with the defendant?
Mrs. Hamlin.
And you're a teacher also?
Yes, I'm a counselor.
My fingers...
Makes Gary look pretty good to me. You tell me about your background at the school.
Okay, well, my background, I've been with the district for approximately 20 years. I've never had any criminal background. I've never been in any trouble before. All of this is just appalling to me, and...
You must allow her to tell me what she alleges happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, on this particular day, I was preparing material for middle school and high school students to tutor. I heard some noise outside of my office door. I went out to see what was going on. I asked students, what were you doing? They said they were moving the chairs for the counselor, Mrs. Hamlin. I approached her, asked if afterward you could have the students to return the table and chairs. She became irate. She told me she doesn't have time for this foolishness.
What did you think she was talking about?
I don't know. I just asked her a question.
You didn't bother to ask? You didn't bother to say, what foolishness, or what are you talking about?
No.
Go ahead. What happened then?
She had folders in her arm. I responded by saying, that's unprofessional. She began to point her finger in my face.
I'm sure you walked away.
I was in front of my office door.
I'm sure you scooted over to the side and walked around her like you would expect your students to when there's a altercation. You expect and you teach regularly, at least I hope they teach that at the Gary school system. If someone confronts you, walk away. Do they teach that or not? Maybe I'm wrong. Do you teach? I hope you teach the kids that.
I do teach the kids.
Do you teach your kids that?
Yes.
All right, but you chose not to.
There was nowhere for me to walk
Okay,
to.
you couldn't get away. No opening on the left, no opening on the right, and no opening in front. She doesn't look that big.
I was in front of my office door. I didn't need to go anywhere but in my office.
Yes, you did. If you have a confrontation in front of you, you need to retreat, just like you are supposed to teach your students. You did what?
I held my hands up because I felt threatened because her finger was almost in my face. As I proceeded to hold my hands up, she began to swing. I asked her, can we go out in the hall and
Let's
talk?
fight in the hall. Let's not do it here. She could go out in the hall and do what?
So we could talk about it because the students were watching.
Woman is swinging on you, and you're doing that. You said, can we go talk about it in the hall? It's a pretty unusual response to someone swinging on you. What is her response?
She began to say something about I don't know.
You don't know what she did?
She just kept rambling. She just kept rambling.
Just kept talking.
Okay. I just said okay.
And then what? She said okay.
That's when
you
she
said
turned
okay
around again and began to point her finger in my face. And
again, she had already pointed it.
She did it more than once.
So just let me get it straight. The first time she pointed it, what did you do?
I asked her not to point her finger in my face.
Okay, and you just stood there?
Yes.
Then what happened?
she pressed my fingers and my fingers back, bent them back. I noticed that my first finger was bleeding, my hand began to swell, and my ring finger was broken. I had to go to the emergency room to receive medical attention as a result of that.
After she bent your fingers, what did you do then?
I reported to the principal.
Now, how did you get away? Remember, you couldn't get away, remember? You couldn't get away. How'd you get away?
A colleague.
You got away then, didn't you, huh?
A colleague came between.
No, colleague appeared. Let me hear from you, ma'am.
Well, I pulled some students out and brought them down to the office, and I decided, can you show, Your Honor, this diagram, please? The tables that are out, the round tables that are in the outer office there, I had to move a table to a particular area. At that time, I walked back to my office. She followed behind me saying, "What's going on? What are you doing?" She followed me into my office, and she asked me again, what am I talking about? And I was like,
what?
I said, "Miss Lund, I'm not sure what you're talking about." So I walked back out with my cart. I didn't have anything in my hands. I had a cart that I pushed back out.
Let her finish. She didn't interrupt you. Go ahead.
Okay, I pushed it back out. So what happens now, she says something to me again. I said, "I don't know what you're talking about, Miss Lund." I said, "But I don't have time for this foolishness." And that's when she said, "You are being very unprofessional." And you know what? I grew up in church. I lost it all. I admit, I lost it. I did. I am a counselor. I am one to diffuse situations all the time. I do not teach my children violence. But when she did that, for some reason, something just... And so I immediately went back, and I'll tell you, I was wrong with that. But I went back with, "No, you're being unprofessional," and then I let her know about herself. And that's when she grabbed my hand. She grabbed my finger with her right hand, and she said, "Don't put your finger in my face." And that's when I grabbed her hand, and I said, "Don't touch me." And that was the end of the touching.
Woman is swinging on you, and you doing that. You said, "Can we go talk about it in the hall?"
Plaintiff Diane Lund worked as a teacher with the defendant, and she claims the defendant assaulted her at their high school and broke her finger.
What did she do when she had your finger?
What did she do?
Yeah, and why in your finger in a cast?
She didn't do anything.
You snatched it out?
No, I took her hand and I pushed it off of my finger.
You grabbed her hand and pushed it off?
Yes.
And then what did you do after pushing her hand off of yours? You pushed it off.
And that was it. That was it of the physical contact with she and I.
I missed. Well, we just missed. Let's go over it again.
Okay.
We just missed the part where you bent.
Exactly. I missed it too.
Once again, why do you think her hand is so damaged, her finger, when you all did the same thing? She grabbed your finger. Your finger's stronger than hers. She didn't do it as hard. She didn't do it as maliciously. Ma'am?
I have pictures of my hand in the cast, before the cast, and
Let's
a
see it,
letter of a witness. I completed a police report.
I did too, immediately after the incident.
This is the evidence from the student that observed exactly what was going on.
The suspect became angry after Ms. Lund asked her if she could please put the chairs and table back to where they came from. Then, for no apparent reason, the suspect, you were saying about her, she grabbed you by the hand and bent your fingers back, causing, but you don't say how your finger got up to be bent.
I did.
You didn't tell the police I put my finger in her face. Then she grabbed it.
My finger
You
wasn't in her
said,
face.
"For no apparent reason, officer." Let's see what you told the police. Do you have a report
Sure
where
do.
you told the police anything? Hamler states that Ms. Lund appeared upset and made comments to her that she couldn't quite understand. Ms. Hamler stated that she ignored the remarks and continued dealing with the students. After a moment, Ms. Lund approached Ms. Hamlin, pointing a finger at her and getting directly in her face. Ms. Hamlin responded by pointing at Ms. Lunn, and words were exchanged. Then Ms. Lunn reached and grabbed your hand,
Yes.
pushing it out of her face. That's what you say. You told the police that, right? Ms. Hamlin reacted by grabbing the hand of Ms. Lunn as she pushed her hand and asked her not to touch her. The incident ended when other counselors intervened and separated the two. All right, and what did the school do?
Well, the school, they put us on administrative leave.
Both of you?
Both of us.
Who did they believe started it?
Well, they gave us both the same.
But did they say who they believed
they
was
did
the
not.
aggressor?
No, they did
Because
not.
that's the issue, who the aggressor was. Your counterclaim for $3,000 is for what?
For emotional distress, anxiety, lost some weight behind this. I'm already up through the night with my mother, but when this happened, actually when I got up, you know, I have to do the things I have to do with her, I couldn't go back to sleep. It's just on my mind and just constantly on my mind. So it was a lot of stress behind this.
Okay. Man.
I also have 19 character letters, so you can see or you can read if you like, to tell you pretty much the kind of person I truly am. Loving, caring, and giving.
And don't walk away from a fight, even though I'm a teacher
and you know,
I'm a counselor and I'm supposed to counsel my kids. Does it say that? Hand me one of those, because that's what by your own admission happened. Hand me one of those letters.
Right.
Right.
Well, just like the one Sunday school teacher that wrote a letter for me, she told me, she said, what happened? She said, everything we taught you in church just went out the door, didn't it? And I'm sorry about that.
Well, admittedly, your overreaction caused her damage. You all grabbed each other's fingers, and somehow hers ends up broken, and yours, nothing at all. As a result, I'm going to grant her judgment. I believe that you were the aggressor with regards to grabbing her. $5,000 for the plaintiff. Your claim for emotional distress was dismissed. You had a duty to walk away. Same with you. You claimed that you were blocking yourself and you couldn't go from side to side. I don't believe that. I believe you intended to fight and you just lost the fight in a big way. Have a good day. Judgment for the plaintiff.
My purpose is to focus on my students.
She came up with a broken finger, which I am terribly sorry about that, but I do know she was the aggressor.